So I've also have a call-in show that we kind of just switch over from Twitch, which y'all are on the Revolutionary Tracks, where we just talk about music
Yes.
and culture with my friend Karthik. Which I don't know if I should even say this, but like he just got found out he got like extended his visa today, so like
Oh,
I'm
Hell
just even
yeah.
like
Hell
super
yeah.
pumped for him. So shout out to Karthik and like everything that we'd be able to do. But other than that, yeah, just shit posting on Twitter, and getting people mad at us, which we'll probably get into a little bit later. But I
I mean,
also, if
yeah.
I could just say, yes, absolutely do it. Get yourself a Truth Social. We've got a left link.
Gee,
That's
really, how's that
Truth
going for y'all?
Social. Yeah. And it's worth it. It's worth it because the comments, obviously, like getting Trump, is something I do. I like. I'm not gonna lie, I miss it. But the comments too. That's oh man. There's
Is he really active on Truth Social? Is he posting as much as he was on Twitter? Or has he
no.
slowed it down a little bit? Okay.
It's not as it's it's not as aggressive as he was on Twitter. Um and but yeah, it's still. I mean, the whole Elon thing. That was at least one of my favorite things of the week, at least. So.
I know it's great. This is what we got to do, though, David. We have to start doing special edits for our True Social content, where it's just the parts where we say Trump is good and funny, and all the parts where we're critical about him, we edit out, and then we just post that, and then our Patreon, and we'll see if we can.
That's a good idea.
It'll take a little bit more work, but
Just if
well,
you want to throw in there that you're a group of post 9/11 veterans, like go ahead, steal the valor. Like you've got our blessing.
great. All right. Well, I'll take that to the bank. Well, speaking of post 9/11 veterans, Marcus, I'm glad to finally get the chance to interview you about this because I've been familiar with the Left Flank Vets Twitch for a while, but I don't think I've ever heard you actually tell your story. So I'm just curious, your journey to the military. I'm somebody who still gets not still. I'm 33 now, so the recruiters have stopped calling. But late into my 20s, was getting calls because I was inspired by Jarhead and gave my info to some recruiters, and then like got cold feet. And it's like I was also turning anti-war at that point, so it was a little bit of a confusing
Yeah.
time in my life. But I'm curious what your journey to the military was.
So I think like a lot of like military, or at least vets now is like I've got family. Like my dad was in the army. I've got cousins, uncle, even granduncles that have served in like my parents are Jamaican. So even into like the Jamaican armed forces, it was kind of an option, but then also like the time of my life I was bartending, you know, spending most of my life just getting wasted. And so yeah, like when I'd joined, I was just kind of like literally like lost. And I guess like the only good thought that I had was if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to end up dead like very young and like tragically. The really like dumb thing that I did after that was like join the Marine Corps infantry.
Right.
um but really it was that like, oh hey, like literally like this is what dudes in my family can do
Mhm.
in order to, get by for a few years and then eventually, get a good job afterwards. And that's
Right.
something that I literally was raised under. Like my dad, like I grew up most of like my life. My dad was fixing hospital equipment in Ohio. You know, that's so like it was like kind of just like this option of like this is better than drinking yourself to death, I guess.
And I mean, so you experience like why other options aren't put on the table for folks, right? Like why college isn't made easier,
Mhm.
why all things like that. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a regular story, but it's so. And so I guess like since you've moved to media, like you've I assume been hearing that exact story from vets all over the country.
Yeah, no, and that's where for like we got to remember too that like the military recruits, young people. I like I was a little bit later on, but that's part of the goal, and that's kind of like all where it feeds into. But like, yeah, at the end of the day, no one goes into the military wanting to be an imperialist. No one like goes in there. Like it's the war, like especially like the U.S. media paints it as something, and then for a lot of people, it's just there's so many people that like I knew from whether it's the city or rural areas. Yeah, you like it's just a lot of kids that didn't have a lot of good options. And
Yeah,
honestly, too, like it lived their life and avoided some of the things where you'd be discounted in the military, like i.e., like drug charges, um, you know, whether you've got some type of like disability, breathing disability, which like that's the thing too is like there is like a kind of like a skew to like like poor or just like lower middle class, whatever you want to develop on the economic ladder. um but yeah, basically paycheck to paycheck people. um yeah, and who have also kind of avoided like the worst ills of our society.
do,
So
do you
like,
remember your recruiting experience?
Yeah, actually, like pretty vividly. It which I mean, like for me, I guess it was like it was pretty easy because it was like I knew, hey, I could just do this. So it was just like, all right,
Mm.
sign me up. Uh, I had to wait some time to make sure like I wasn't pissing hot, which are like like for weed. Um, but I mean the things that I most remember are like the specific lies. you know
Hmm.
the oh, you're gonna go in and do this job and that's not what it
Yeah.
like. Or even a lot of it is around the culture and ideology. A lot of people from the like outside, you see like the Marine Corps, like the dress blues and or the badasses in the military. um what you get on the inside. There's actually tomorrow, I should say, there's a documentary releasing on Vanessa Guillen, who was, raped and beaten to like beaten to death, and then hidden in a pit somewhere in the desert at a Fort Hood. And that story, you know, is one of the like worst. It's one of the biggest travesties out there. But like that, this type of thing is not uncommon. Um, and yeah, that's kind of one of those things of like, yeah, you're recruiting to like you're a liar, and like you're lying to kids, like you're lying
Yeah.
to like young people like who are kind of like just really searching for a way to get by.
I'm reminded this is the thing that brought me to TikTok, and then I'll let David get a word in.
yeah.
But I assume you saw this, Marcus. This is
Mhm.
stunning.
Hey Omar, if you could say one thing to your recruiter, what would it be?
Fuck you.
Hey, word. Word. If you could say one thing to your recruiter, what would it be?
That was fucking bullshit.
Hey. If you could tell one thing to your recruiter, what would it be?
Fuck you.
If you could say one thing to your recruiter, what would it be?
Hope he dies.
Hey, if you could say one.
I mean, you get the point.
Yeah.
Shit's wild.
Yeah.
It's just so wild. I mean, because I remember, because I grew up I grew up very poor in a poor area, and like they recruited heavily, like at my high school and all around us. And I can't remember if I was 16 or 17, but you can basically sign like an intent at that age, so that like once you get older, like they hit you back up. And I signed then because I had every intention of joining the military, because like you, like I had a lot of military. My family didn't really have like a plan for doing college and things like that. But I ended up not doing it, and I would get constant calls from these guys. And I remember though, just like one call in particular, I'm just saying, like, just like how like nasty this stuff can be. Is like this guy calls me up and he starts talking to me, and I just let him go. And he's just like, I know you just had a kid. Things are very stressful. You don't know what's going on in
Yep.
your life. By the way, I don't have a kid. I didn't have a kid, but like it was just like a script that like if he caught you at the right time and knowing what's going on with a lot of people my age and that community at that time. Like, you could just shoot in the dark and probably get somebody with a line like that, and just realizing like how cynical that entire operation is. It's like trying to prey on people. I mean, because Lord, you're 17, 18, you have a child, you don't really know what's going on next. Like, that's a lot of pressure on you. And like, that is a very effective pitch to say, like, here's a solution to your problem that I'm offering you. But obviously it's as we saw from those guys who, it's a bad bargain.
Well, and the thing that really kind of sucks, and like this is something that like people kind of got to deal with, and this is gonna get worse, is compared to like they call it civilian life. If you've never been in the military, this is just life as an American.
Mhm.
It is way easier. Like when it comes down to how I go about like paying, like what I have to do to pay bills, like what happens when I have to move, like it's just way easier in the military.
Mm.
And like this is the thing too, is
Mhm.
like there's recruiters on the inside, right? Those are career planners. And like right when you're about to get at like those same type of thing, and like really like your whole, especially like in the Marine Corps, your whole Marine Corps career, you're told, you're literally not good as anything else other than a Marine. If you were good at something else, you'd be somewhere else.
Mm.
Mhm.
But guess what? You're here with us. So but that's the thing, is that like there's a lot of people who stick around because they know like they're not getting anything better anywhere else.
Mm.
Um and that's something that like actually, like throwing out, like the Michael Brooks quote, as far as how you treat systems versus people, and
Right.
that's just something that's like, if you are on the left and you want to actually tackle anti-imperialism, you want to tackle the U.S. military industrial complex, that's a recognition that, or like you got to make the recognition of like these are like there's a lot of people who are just literally just trying to make money, feed their kids,
Mhm.
and they recognize that outside sucks,
Mm.
because it does. When you're trying to get health care, try to pay rent, it sucks way more outside of the military, and that's kind of apparent. But
Yeah. How did your politics develop? Were they pretty developed going in, or did they
no,
develop while you were in? No.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, I was a moron. I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, played a lot of sports, just like to get drunk, like just nice meathead idiot.
Right.
Um, it was after my second deployment, which there's like moments in time, where like really it's like kind of like the look that I've got that you get on like people's faces, where it's like you kind of like, well, why are they looking at me so mean? I'm just here to help. Um,
Mm.
but after my second deployment, I just kind of just like started like wondering like I don't really understand like why I was where I was, what we were doing, you know. And I guess like some part of it was like an earnest, like, what's the actual mission, Like let me
Mm.
start like putting some pieces together. But then yeah, when you start pulling on that thread, there's really no good answers. This is also the time when like the Bernie Sanders campaign was kind of going around. Um, and yeah, yeah, paying, just even like being, like I guess it was like I found a lot of left media. I found the Majority Report, or like TYT, and I don't know, like Kyle Klinsky. There's like a whole mix of like left media that's still like, going on today. And thankfully so, because like they're like random service members sitting in their barracks rooms that are like getting swept up and being able to answer some questions that really don't
Mm.
get answered anywhere else, or
Mhm.
even try to be tackled. But that's kind of where it started. And then after I left the military, I mean I literally tried to do, I guess like the liberal way, like I used my veteran status in order to advocate for certain issues around student loan debt, around housing, around uh, incarceration, and through trying to yeah, solve those problems. I ended up working as a staffer for like a member of Congress, like I'd really, bought in to try. And yeah, in that effort to solve issues for my community, within, you know, some of the more established apparatus. It's just like those failures. COVID was like kind of like the exclamation point on it. Because I don't know if you saw like the recent reporting on the Paycheck Protection Program, and about, I think it was like 800 billion spent. About like what 80% of it just went didn't even make it to like any workers or anything like that. You know, that was a bill that like I saw intimately like as it went through, and like yeah, that seeing how that happened in the end result, which was just so many small business owners like calling and saying like, what the fuck, like I need help, like what's happening. Yeah, it was like, yeah, we like none of you all care, you know, this is this is a mess. And that's kind of, yeah, when I think I got a lot more like, I guess, radical, you know, in my day-to-day action, and not really saying, you know, like buying into any of these established institutions.
Right.
So one thing that it really infuriates me, frankly, but I see it a lot on the left, and I'd be curious to hear like your interactions with it and experiences with it. Is like people who are very far away, one who didn't like serve, and then also are probably far away from people who actually were in the military. They have this kind of like moralism, right? You know, like screw all the soldiers, screw all the veterans. Like I don't care like what their political positions are. They're, you know, bloody, dangerous, bad people, and they should have no place on the left. Which I just like, you know, if you don't recognize, if you're a leftist and you don't recognize the systems that prey upon the poor, as we were just talking about earlier, and pull them into that service, you know, give people like a life debt to make sure that, you know, for like 4 years or something like that, so that maybe they can go to school or get a paycheck or whatever. If you don't recognize those systems, I don't know. I have some words for you, but I'm just curious, you know, because y'all do a project, Left Flank Vets. You know, y'all are open about this kind of thing. One, what you would say to somebody like that, and two, I'm just curious if like you think that's like a large portion of people, or you know.
Yeah, no, and this is something that like I think I speak like with vets, and it's like our DMs, and like that's things like if you're a vet, like we don't answer a lot of DMs. If there's a veteran that says, "Hey, I'm a vet, and you know, can you talk to me about this?" Like I don't think we've missed not one of those. So we got a Discord as well. You know, like I don't know the link. You'll find it. But if you're a vet and you want to talk about these issues, or you know, and then, like I'll probably give you the same answers. Like this, I think is very much an online, you know, type of phenomena, you know, or whatever it is. It's like a very online thing. I've not yet been like in person anywhere where like someone is, you know, like, oh, you're a vet, and you know, all these type of shit, especially if like we're like in the action of doing something good. But I mean, yeah, since like a lot of things, it's just like happens online. If I can tell someone's from the United States, like you can eat shit. Like I really don't care. You know, like hey, you're you know, you're paying for the great Satan. You know, so like whatever, I don't care. But when it does come to people from, you know, countries where our imperialist project has like directly affected, which is like a lot, you know, there's a lot of people who have a right to talk shit about me, and like that's just okay. And you know, like my feelings aren't gonna be hurt. You know, like I need to take that and understand, well, like obviously why they're upset. I you know, like I obviously wasn't engaged in all of the US, you know, like, but like you could put that on me. And that's just something that I got to feel that pain and hopefully use it to do something good. So, you know, it kind of depends on who's talking shit. Depending on how I react.